channel. This is Ishan Turkir here, and today we're just going to talk about several different things. I'm sorry about the long hiatus I was just on. It was completely unplanned, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, and then maybe discuss what I'm hoping to do in the future of this channel. And let's just jump right into it. So the last time on my channel, I was talking about inconvenient karma and how a mountain had fallen on me. So shortly after that video, I ended up getting really sick. I ended up going to the closest zip clinic, walk-in clinic, and they then told me that because of how bad I was, I needed to go to the ER. So I had a friend drive me to the ER because ambulances are expensive, and I ended up sitting in the waiting room for an hour and a half waiting to get in to have someone look at me. So that was fun. So while I was in the ER, there were 2 service dogs that came in with people. And both of those service dogs, when they would buy me or whenever I would make a movement, they would actually pay attention to me, which kind of freaked me out because there was like 5 or 6 small children in the area. They were running around doing things, and the dogs completely ignored them. Like, they didn't look at them, they didn't react when they went by them, nothing. I was in a different part of the ER waiting room from one of the dogs, and whenever I moved, he sat up and take notice. And then the other one actually left the person that it was supposed to be with and came over and sat down in front of me and sniffed me, and when I looked at it, it went on ahead and walked back to the person it was supposed to be with. But I found those events a little bit frightening because I didn't think I was bad enough off that a service dog would leave the person that it was supposed to be with or pay attention to someone outside of the person it was supposed to be with, which made me feel that I might have been worse off than I thought I was. So then when they finally brought me back into the ER to be looked at, they decided that I had acute pancreatitis. Apparently, acute pancreatitis has 2 major causes for it, and one of them is alcoholism, and the other one is a gallbladder issue. So they kept talking to me and asking me, had I drank anything? Do I drink? All those kinds of things. And I told them I didn't. So then they sent me home with a prescription for morphine. And that was the worst mistake in the world. Apparently, if it's a gallbladder issue, morphine will exacerbate that particular situation. And also, my father and my sister are extremely allergic to morphine. Like deadly allergic to morphine. And so I went home at 1:30 in the morning. We stopped at CVS and bought some morphine. Got the morphine, which surprisingly was cheap. I got an anti-nausea and a morphine. The anti-nausea was $120. The morphine was like $15. So, surprisingly cheap for a narcotic. And so, I came home and I started taking the morphine, which ended up being a really, really bad idea. So after that, I took the morphine, which gave me some stupid bad dreams, and made me so sick for 5 days that I lost 12 pounds in those 5 days and thought I was going to die from dehydration. So, yeah, morphine, 1 out of 10, don't recommend. I really, no. It was bad. So then I went and got my act together at that point because I'm going, I might actually die from this. And so I went and found a doctor who could look at me the first day. And I went in to see them. And I went in at 2. And they close. They don't accept any more appointments after 6 p.m. And I was there from 2 in the afternoon until almost 7 o'clock that night. They were trying to put in an IV to get me rehydrated, which took forever and lots of poking because my veins were so bad, they just couldn't get it in. They couldn't get a vein to get the IV in. They did take some blood and they did some tests and asked the questions and came along and said, okay, so we see they gave you morphine, which they really shouldn't have done because if it's a gallbladder issue, which is what it looked like, because they did like an ultrasound and looked in there and they're like, oh yeah, your gallbladder is not quite ready to burst, but it's getting there. They said, so since they gave you the morphine, that's undoubtedly what made you sick, as a combination of possible allergy along with the way that it reacts with the muscles, certain muscles around the gallbladder, and makes you sick from that. So we're not really sure which one caused it, but probably both, given how bad sick I was from this. So needless to say, at that point, they gave me 2 full IV bag drips of saline, and even at that point, I was still super dehydrated. I went home and I drank like 5 bottles of Gatorade that night. It was just really horrible. But I was no longer as sick as I was. I was starting to feel better, and I had an appointment for the next day. So they took all the blood work and were looking at stuff to try and figure out what needed to be done to make this all work out better for me. And that was a good thing. So after that, I came back and they said, okay, you're going to need, don't know when that's going to happen, but you are going to probably need it here fairly soon. And so by the next week, I was scheduled for surgery, and I had surgery, and that was in September when I had surgery. So then after the surgery, it took me a while to recover. I had 4 places on my stomach where they had cut in and they were covered with purple super glue. But because of the way that my drafting table is set up, which is where all my camera equipment was, it was really uncomfortable for me to sit there and try and do anything for several months. So that was kind of a thing. And then after I was actually recovered from that, like literally the weekend that I was about to sit down and start drawing stuff, the bookcase right next to my drafting table, which holds a majority of my art supplies, and the books are 3 deep on them, fell apart. Like, it completely fell apart. So I had to fix that before I could sit down and start recording. I am really sorry if you hear any thumping during this. Apparently my upstairs neighbors have decided to race. So, yay. So I finally got that fixed. And then I drew this piece. And unfortunately, I also had a little bit of an artist block happening. So I didn't know what I was drawing, and then I finally got it drawn, and I didn't know how to color it, which is why the wings look really weird. I'm not terribly pleased with this picture, but it is what it is, and so I'm going to put it up anyways. Yeah, so that's my story about how I ended up in the ER and having surgery. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is kind of what I'm going to try and do with this channel. So if you've been using YouTube at all for the last month, you will have undoubtedly heard of this lovely little thing going around about COPPA. COPPA is the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, and it was created in '98 to help protect children online, mostly from predators and whatnot. And it's been around since 1998 with only a couple of revisions since then. Apparently they revise it every 10 years. So they're supposed to be doing a revision on it again, because apparently this thing with YouTube has kind of raised some issues with it. Now, I had originally, when it was originally coming up, the news was that YouTube had been fined $140 million, and that after that, all of the creators were going to end up also being a part of the hit list for COPPA. But since then, I've been looking at stuff and learning things, and apparently YouTube didn't actually get fined. What happened was COPPA came along and said, hey, we're going to take you to court because this, and YouTube decided to settle outside of court for the $140 million. Beyond that, the reason that COPPA has come along and decided to also try fining the creators is because of another situation almost exactly the same that was with a video game developer, where they also settled outside of court for whatever amount, rather than going into court and going, hey, the way the rules are written, this doesn't actually apply to us. Which, honestly, the way the rules are written, it's really a stretch to apply them to the creators on YouTube. So now we have these little buttons that YouTube has provided to us for child-directed content or not child-directed content. That's the only options they're giving us. Children or adult. Child-directed content is for content directed to children who are 12 years old and under. Now, COPPA has this lovely list of things that make it child-directed. However, below that list, and something that YouTube has apparently been ignoring, there's this other category called mixed content, which I honestly believe is where my stuff falls at, because it is definitely not being done for children. The stuff I talk about is probably pretty scary to most kids, and while yes, I am drawing art, my style is slightly cartoony, tell that to Family Guy that they're for children. My art supplies are far too expensive for a child to be able to afford. I mean, the markers I used in this video are $8 a pop. Per marker, $8. No parent is going to spend that on their child unless they are stupidly rich. And I don't believe any of my viewers are at that point. So hopefully where I want to take this channel is I'm going to try keeping it on YouTube. I have been considering moving to other places online. There's a lot of other places where I could be putting up videos and having content. But I'm going to try keeping it on YouTube for now. Just mostly to see if I can maybe grow an audience and then move over to one of these other platforms that actually do give you the option to call it mixed content the way it really is. So that's what I'm hoping to do with my channel. I'm going to also try and have an upload schedule where I upload twice a month. I'm going to try. I'm not going to promise anything because I am still working 2 jobs as well as trying to do this, and that takes a lot of energy. So that's the point we're at. And I'm going to thank you all for coming and looking at my channel and seeing what I'm drawing. And I will see you next time here on Ishan Turkiye Draws Art. And have a great day.